So thanks so much for being willing to do this today. I appreciate it. So everybody, this is one of my clients who's been coming to sessions with me for a little over 3 years. And so I just wanted you to, if you don't mind, talking first about like how what you first came to me for, and then maybe just talk a little bit about how that evolved, and then because I offer different services, so maybe just talking about how it started and then where we ended up recently, and where it's gone from there.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. And I think I started, I guess my first session with you was one of the longer kind of shamanic healing sessions. And I'd never done anything like that before. And it was really neat. It was really a special occasion. I think I really appreciated how you did some pre-work with me and sort of prepared me for what we would experience. And then, yeah, during it, I felt really comfortable, and it was a very profound experience, and definitely something that unlocked a lot of emotional things inside me, and yeah, just a really unique experience. And then I think we continued. I did a couple more sessions like that. Spaced out a little bit, um, and then maybe over the course of a year or so, and then I had been doing some other therapy with other different therapists, and um, that we can talk more about that in a little bit. But those kind of evolved. Those different therapists kind of I don't know, they were good, and then I think I kind of got what I needed to get out of that, and so then I really wanted to switch into just seeing you, Jennifer, as a kind of on a more uh, routine basis to do what I was doing in those therapy sessions, I think, which was talking about emotions and things like that, and so I think I guess that was the second kind of or kind of second kind of service that I've seen you for, and that's kind of what we do now on a every other week basis. Seeing um, just kind of treating it more like a traditional therapy session, but still, I think you were able to weave some of that shamanic
Yeah.
practice in.
Yeah, and if you don't mind my asking, so what was it that made you want to make that switch? Since I'm not a certified like a professional therapist per se, and I call what I do a combination of like spiritual direction and trauma informed life coaching, and then also the shamanic piece, and I would say shamanic or spiritual healing piece that I kind of weave together. So I was curious, like, even though I'm not like professionally labeled a therapist, what was it that made you feel like I would be a good fit, or that I have been a good fit for you?
Yeah, I think I'd done several other kinds of traditional therapy. I think from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, to EMDR, which I can't remember what that stands for, but it was yeah,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
um, also the internal family systems, IFS, and um, those were all great, and they had a place for me in my own path, I think, of healing and spiritual growth and understanding myself. And I think I had kind of gotten to a place where I don't know, it just sort of stalled in a way with these different modalities. And I think the thing that I've always um, loved about working with you, Jennifer, has been, I kind of come into our sessions with this metaphorical suitcase of emotions, I think. And I just feel so comfortable opening it up and pulling them out. And, we
Yeah.
kind of get these together. And I think that's really the thing that is different about your approach, at least as I've experienced it, is we're not just talking about emotions as abstract things, as often it felt like in some of the other therapy um, with other therapists I've seen, but like it felt very much like, you're really willing to help me feel and experience
Mm.
these emotions in a very safe and loving place, and
Mm.
that really feels healing in a way that I hadn't experienced before.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. And I resonate with that too because I had thought about being a therapist at some point, but there was this part that didn't work for me, which was that it was very, very heady and devoid of this a belief in the spiritual, which for me just didn't work because to me that's a reality. I just can't pretend it's not real. And so for me, yeah, like when you're dealing with human beings and emotions and things like that, it's like it is very, I have a lot of compassion for people suffering. So it's not something I just want to intellectualize, because you're in the midst of, bearing witness to other people's deep, you know, deep wounds and deep suffering. So yeah, it's very much to me all about being present and
Yeah.
and holding space for that and feeling it with them really. I know it's kind of like therapy. You're right. There's this like professional distance and for me it's yeah, there's some professional distance, but it's also like I know how to that I'm using my intuitive abilities too. So the part of that is feeling. You got to be able to feel what people are feeling to some degree to be able to um walk with them in that whatever that is.
Yeah, and that certainly comes through in how you do your sessions. They're I kind of come from a more sciencey background, and I sort of being with in a therapy session where the world of spirit is opened up to me is feels very refreshing and very healing in a way that I really appreciate. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually been such an honor too to bear witness to your sessions because we never know what's going to happen, right? And
That's
it's
the fun of it, I think.
and it's always like, wow, the things and I think, that is, in large part due to what, the work that you're doing and the depth that you have and your ability to kind of go deeper and you think in between sessions, a lot of times you're journaling and you're just very self-reflective. So that's just refreshing to see and to see how deep you can go, and how much courage you have, honestly, because a lot of people don't have the courage to do this kind of work. They're really, and it does take a lot of courage. So I just want to say kudos to you on that. Yeah. So, I want to see, I know there's a few questions that I wanted to ask you. Let's see. Well, I guess one question was, how do you think this work has affected you in your life so far?
Yeah, I mean, really profoundly. I I would say that, for the first time in my life, really through the work that I've done with you, Jennifer, I've been able to feel self-love, and like a true and authentic way towards myself. And that's just been completely transformational for me in all of my relationships, from my kids to how I am at work to how I interact with anybody really. And yeah, it's been a real journey of healing to be able to find that. And um, yeah, I think directly as a result of um, things that I've experienced in our sessions together, to be able to find that love, that just I can feel for myself. And what I hope to be able to do with this is to radiate that out into the
Yeah.
world. I think that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
really what I'm also working on. And so yeah, it's really it's changed my life in a very, very positive way. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
thanks for that.
So glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so glad to have been a part of that for you. Um, I'm curious, I can't remember how much you had done of other types of healing besides the traditional therapy. Had you done other kinds of alternative healing or shamanic healing or anything like that before?
No, this was my first experience
Oh,
with
okay.
that sort of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't ask you how it was different other than talking about the therapy. So but you had a positive experience, it sounds like. So you would encourage others that haven't tried this before, and you came from a Christian background. I'm curious, how was that for you? Because it's a little bit of an orientation shift, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the way that you practice it is, I don't know if you always help sort of a, I don't know what the right word is, like translate it into a
Yeah.
background that's kind of appropriate for whoever you're seeing. But it felt really familiar
Right.
from that background, just a different sort of way of seeing it, maybe kind of what I imagine like in a mystical kind of way or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of see it as a parallel, like shamanic healing is, I mean, I think of it as practical mysticism, maybe, and I'm coming from a Christian background too, so it's kind of you could call it something different. It doesn't have to be called shamanic per se, but because it is kind of like you could say, I don't know, spiritual healing too, or mystical, whatever. You could call it different things, but it's really just means you're calling on the divine for help, right? And sometimes in the guided meditations, we're specifically calling on, certain helping spirits like angels or might be Yeshua or Mary or who knows, like whoever people are close to, or even sometimes an ancestor or you know, um,
And I think, I would encourage people to just keep an open mind. I think I had no idea what any of this was,
yeah,
before I came into this. And I think
right.
um, just just keeping an open mind to,
Hmm.
and then maybe a curiosity for what does that mean? What are who are these spirits or entities that are there? And I can't really explain it. It's just an
Right.
interesting thing that um, that I've found to be very helpful in my life, in our work together. So yeah, I think just staying curious and open-minded
Yeah. Yeah.
is the key for I think what's
Right.
worked for my experience with you.
Yeah. And I think your the IFS work you do is just so for if people know that term, IFS is internal family systems, and that's where they do parts work. They call
Mhm.
it parts. So a lot of times when I do clearing work with people, the shamanic healing or clearing work I do is we kind of do like a scan, sort of a body scan. I help people ground into the earth and bring down divine energy, bring up Mother Earth energy. And then, using that energy kind of just in their mind's eye, and I do some drumming to help them get into it, sort of an altered state. And then they do a scan. I would say, that's how we usually do that. And I'm curious if that was like really strange the first time you did that, because well, what we can find, you can find like things in there. You might just see a different color, or you might see a feeling. Some people get a physical sensation in their body, and sometimes if there's something that needs to be cleared out, like it could be lost souls, kind of in somebody's energy field, and sometimes that will cause a physical sensation. And that's how we know it's there. And when we're doing this work, it kind of triggers it and it might come up. For some people, it might be more like emotions or, trauma from the past. Or sometimes when I said ancestors, it could be like, a lot of times people's parents or sometimes grandparents or there's different ancestral energies in a person's field too. And so, and it's so fascinating to me that like the average everyday person that hasn't done a lot of like intuitive work can actually do this. I mean, I'm just doing like drumming and I'm having you guys do the work, right? I'm kind of looking with you, but like I think it's much more powerful when you yourself can see what's going on inside of you, right? Am I,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, no, and I think, that's, to sort of make the parallel to the IFS work with Richard Schwartz. I've seen some of his podcasts or seen him interviews with him, and I mean, it's the same sort of way where
Yeah.
he can take people that have no experience with this, and all of a sudden they're finding all of these parts inside them, right? And understanding them and like working to heal them. And I feel like maybe that, doing some of that work before I saw you kind of primed me a little bit to be
Yeah, I
able
think so.
to touch into some of
Yeah.
that sort of idea. And I think maybe you come from it from a slightly different
Right.
perspective that I really appreciate because it feels more tangible
Okay.
in the way that you kind of work with it. It's more direct, I guess, and more immediate in some way. And but yeah, in that same way that I think anybody could do this, really, just if you're curious and can start to really just sit with
Um,
sit with things, and notice what's happening in your body, and then just explore that feeling, um,
right.
and just let it, just keep exploring it, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you never know where it's gonna go,
Yeah,
and it can go
exactly.
really interesting places. Yeah.
And I'm curious, did you find for yourself that it was like much harder in the beginning to kind of tune in to your body, or do you think it got easier?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of goes back and forth.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But you know, I've got these times when it is very easy to get into things, and sometimes, yeah, it's sometimes you think
Harder. Yeah.
it's easy, and then all of a sudden it's very challenging to, and different things are happening in my life, of course,
Yeah.
you know, all
Yeah.
the time, and so I think that you know affects
Right.
um, kind of where I'm able to how easy it is to approach things. And some things are just harder. You know, maybe it's something got stirred up that's just really hard for me to sit with. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it might take, you know, a couple sessions to really
Right.
let that kind of come
Yeah.
out in a way that feels safe in some way.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that's totally fine. That's also a possibility in our sessions that
Yeah.
it's just too much for right now. But
Right.
yeah.
And I see that too, that the kind of in between sessions, you're kind of I think you still seem to like reflect on some of those things, like and even work on like accepting this part of yourself or that part of yourself, you know, and I think that's really powerful too, because then you come in, I feel like the next time you come in and it's more like there's already been progress just because you're continuing to work on yourself and notice
Yeah.
these things and hold yourself kind of accountable to these shifts that you're trying to make, you know, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And the IFS thing too, I was going to say I feel like I was influenced too by you and well IFS I hadn't done a training in IFS, but I do have the workbook, you know, some of the books around it and I'm familiar with it, but the fact that you had already done it was actually it made it really a lot more flexible for me to be able to kind of take a little bit more of a slightly different approach, which is, you know, more similar to IFS than what I typically do. So that was kind of cool that, you know, it just made it easy. And you were good about saying like, "Oh, can we do this with this part?" You know, because
yeah.
you knew how that worked, so that was cool. That was nice. So you took I feel like you're very empowered in the work we do together, which is nice.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's also a testament to the way that you do things, you know, and it feels very, you know, the space that you've created feels very um it's like kind of like a workshop or a playground or, you know, something where um you know, we can be curious about these things
Yeah.
together, and
Right.
it feels like that's part of the healing really is that um to play in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's always extra powerful when, you know, I always call in like the angels and spiritual guidance just for like just to be there present holding the field, kind of holding the space, you know, and whether people believe in that or not, I just kind of do that because and I know you do, but like not everybody does, but I just feel like it just lends a whole nother energy to the field, you know, which I can't take credit for. So
And that's the thing is it feels so safe in our
yeah.
sessions. They feel incredibly safe. And yeah, I've always marveled at the space. And that yeah, it's rare for me to be able to
Yeah.
um, yeah, feel that open where
Mhm.
actually this stuff could come out. And I think that's a testament to how you've prepared that space. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And so I guess the question is like, if you would recommend me to others, and if so, who do you think would most benefit from the kind of work that I do?
Yeah, I think really anybody. I mean, I think you know, um, for me, if there's been a traumatic event in my life or you know, something I've become, you know, something in my past maybe that I've become aware of, I think bringing those up for kind of the deeper dive, kind of longer shamanic sessions are really useful for kind of specific, you know, really focusing on maybe specific things. Um, but then I think just as you know, general kind of emotional tune-ups, I
Yeah.
think, you know, those are the shorter sessions are great for that, you know, just to like kind of unpack what's inside right now. What's going on with you? What's alive, as I've heard people say. What's really, you know, what's really happening inside me right now, and to help just to be able to unpack that and see what it is incredibly helpful.
Mhm.
Um, just to help me feel not only to help me feel regulated, but also to give me some guidance in kind of what I need to do in my life,
Right.
and how I need to respond in different ways to different situations, and how I'm really feeling about something. All right, so I think for people who maybe don't um, aren't really as comfortable with their emotions, which is probably most people
Yeah.
in our
And
Western
maybe
society.
therapy. Sometimes they're not comfortable with therapy because of that, right?
Yeah, or just even, therapy may become more of more of like a coaching session or a intellectual thing, or just talking about your day or something like that, or if getting back to like actual emotional experience
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having a place to relive that and unpack that, I think is really something that I've found to be incredibly helpful
Yeah.
in our sessions together. And that's just you can do that in a short amount of time, and I
Yeah.
think that's
Oh.
really neat. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm just curious, because it feels like coaching doesn't feel like a sufficient word for you for what we do. Like, if
Oh
you
yeah.
were to say, like, when you talk about it or when you think about it, like, like, if somebody just asked you about what you're doing or what I'm doing with you, like, what would be the way you would I mean, either describe it or name it? How would you name it? Or what do you name it?
Well, I just call it therapy, but
Okay. Okay.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that you're very careful not to sort
Yeah.
of call it that because of
Right. Right.
your sort of licenses and things like that. Um, but yeah, what else would I call it? I mean, yeah, going to see my shaman. That's
Okay.
another way I say it. Yeah.
Funny.
But I know that sounds a little stranger,
Yeah,
so
yeah, I hear you.
I
Yeah,
don't.
and it is hard in our culture because there's not really a container for, you know, we've kind of like that role, traditional role of the shaman or medicine man, or there's traditional roles of people that do this kind of work in society, but it kind of got segregated, parsed out. It became like therapy became just about the mind and like a physical thing, and it got parsed out from the spirituality, and it got parsed out from the body. A lot of times now they're bringing therapy back together with somatic approaches, which is good, but it's not necessarily always spiritual. So I'm kind of trying to bring them all back together the way I think it was always meant to be, because we are whole beings and we're not meant to be segregated into this part and that part and that part. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think part of the problem is the 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 limits of language in our culture because we have parsed everything out and segregated it.
Yeah, there really is no perfect word for I think what you do.
Yeah.
I found it to be so essential to, my own personal growth um and healing, and yeah, so I think I highly recommend it to anybody who's wants to heal from past traumas, be more emotionally present, find self-love. Um, yeah, I'd say, and probably a bunch of other things I'm not really thinking of at the moment, but there's so many uses for this work, and how it will change your life for the better. So I highly recommend it.
Well, thank you so much for saying that and for sharing all of your experiences. It's like I said, it's been such an honor to work with you and to see because you're so deeply reflective and you just it's an honor and a privilege just to kind of witness your unfolding and your growth and your healing and all the beautiful things that are happening to you and with you and through you and through your spirits and your helping spirits and the work we're doing. So yeah, so thank you for letting me be part of that process and bearing witness. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jennifer. It's been a really fun journey.